So good day and welcome back to Mindful Trinity viewers. I'm your host Vaishnavi Charan. Our special guest for today is a transformational mindset coach who trains and inspires adversity survivors to rediscover their passion, purpose, and freedom by providing them with a unique running program, a running plan for success. So hello and welcome to James Peters from Kent in the United Kingdom.
Hey, good to meet you. Glad to be here.
I'm grateful that you actually accepted my invite and you're here to share all of your insights and your wisdom, your knowledge with all of us.
No, I'm always looking to give back, and hopefully any information I can provide about my story anyway is helps anyone in any way. That's obviously always a massive win for myself.
Yeah, and I guess that is why we actually connected. Like I was actually mentioning to you in the beginning, that when all of us are vibrating at the same level of vibrations, I would say, we tend to connect with the right type of people. And I'm so grateful that I connected with you, because you have this mindset. You have this mindset of helping others, and that is why I also have the same mindset. And thank you so much.
No problem. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so could you tell us more about James Peters and what led you to become a transformational mindset coach?
Yeah, exactly. So my story's, I guess a lot happened to myself over really the last sort of 3 years or so. Really since 2017, my life really sort of changed and really took me on a different path. Like I wasn't this person 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Through trauma and devastation, a lot of it, it's kind of led me down this pathway to go inwards. So 2017, I just lost my dad. Then I'd within a matter of months lost my son, and then had been accused of a crime I hadn't committed, and found myself sitting in a prison cell in mid-July thinking, where's everything gone? Like, everything had gone so wrong for myself. And within that sort of period of time, I was spending like 72 hours in a custody cell. I was obviously at that time suffering a lot of like mental ill health, and the fact of I didn't really know what was happening, what was going to happen to myself, and naturally, when you're on your own for that period of time in a cell of only having like 15 minutes of fresh air in 72 hours, and it's obviously a warm summer in July, you naturally think that as soon as you get out of here, suicide is the only option for you. And that was really where I was. I think that was really my plan. Ultimately, I'd made that decision, and I was comfortable with it. But as soon as I did get out of that situation, I didn't want to go back in that situation. So that was it, really. And really, there was a few months after sort of getting out and going through a lot of pain and suffering, and naturally on sort of certain prescription drugs, and but it was a call I made to a Samaritan's charity, which here in the UK, who help people with mental ill health, and that call really started to change the trajectory of kind of the life, really. Obviously I had other people around me as well. I still had family around me. I still had other people, so it wasn't just that. But with that, I made that sort of decision to fight and carry on, and I did have my court case mid 2018, and a 2-week trial, and got through that with a no guilty verdict in sort of 10 minutes, really. So, and really my life started. That's really when my new life started, once I kind of had that out of the way. And then I was searching for something. I was searching for, I didn't know what I was searching for, but I knew I was searching for something. And everything for me up until that time was external. It was relationships, it was material items, it was clothes, it was it was nice things. Everything, my whole perception was really wrapped outside of myself, and I never looked inwards. I never read a self-development book until probably 2018. I never meditated before, probably sometime in 2018 as well, probably at the beginning. So through this sort of like going all inwards, I just felt actually I went on that kind of spiritual journey, really, and I felt actually now I'm going to start documenting a little bit of what my life will be. And I kind of started setting up sort of James Peters lifestyle, because I wanted to sort of offer but I didn't know what that was going to be. I didn't have an awareness of life coaching. I was exercising, but nowhere near to what I was doing now. I was doing meditation, and I was obviously heavily involved in a lot of the mental health side. But at that time, I didn't really know what was going to happen. And one of the biggest books I read was The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And I read that every couple of months. And with that book and just surrendering, I just kind of let go of kind of what the flow of life will be. And kind of with that, that's kind of where I am today, really. So yeah, that's part of kind of where my background is, and like kind of the start of, James Peters' lifestyle, which is only, really started to take off probably now, to be quite honest with you.
Well done to you. So you actually mentioned a book. Was that actually the book that you started reading at that time as well, or this is a different book that you mentioned right now?
No, I started reading. I went through that journey of self-help and development, and I was on YouTube naturally, and I was looking at, I initially found Les Brown, and I was like transfixed by him, and then I obviously Tony Robbins, found him, and obviously what you kind of knew of him anyway, and then you kind of listened to him, and then naturally you started like listening to him, like Esther Hicks, Mel Robbins. You just obviously, when you're on YouTube, you just like, and you listen to the certain videos, and everything else just sort of pops up in front of you. And then I kind of joined a kind of an education entrepreneurial community. A lot of it was driven around affiliate marketing, and so I started to like work being around people who had that growth mindset. Were looking for things, were always exploring, and wanted to self-learn. And joining that community really helped me just learn more things. But I was still I was building a new person. So I was super not confident, had still quite a lot of self-esteem issues, still had quite a lot of mental ill health in a lot of ways. Like I was always 48 hours from things just going completely south, completely down. I wasn't built. I was doing all these things, but my foundations were still actually pretty weak. And yeah, so it's been a bit of a kind of a journey really of self-discovery for myself. And it only really started to change when I actually came through my self-help and development and books and what I was reading. I ended up coming across David Goggins, who's obviously an ex-US Navy SEAL, and I was just transfixed by him. I just couldn't get over I couldn't watch enough of his videos and how he spoke, but it was all around mindset. It was all about mental resilience, and it was all about really pushing yourself and that 40% wall and stuff. And I just was, once I kind of saw him, things for me, my personal journey started to change from that moment, because I was actually starting to build stronger foundations. Which helped myself.
Absolutely amazing. I know we're going to be speaking more about overcoming adversity. You did mention quite a few of your personal situations where you actually was overcoming adversity, but for most of our viewers that don't know what is adversity, firstly, could you give us a few more examples of adversity?
I mean, for me, adversity is with any personal struggle. Like adversity to someone is, can be different, for many people. I mean, obviously you have the extreme cases of adversity, which you can potentially maybe look at myself, and loss and grief, and obviously some of the challenges I went through. But it could be a loss of a job, it could be a loss of a partner, it could be a loss of a relationship, it could be it doesn't have to be so extreme, but I think we all face adversity at some point in our life, really, because we all there's always elements, but for me it's really round to something changing in your life which has an adverse effect on you, which is a job loss, or I guess the main two are job loss and a loss of a relationship, but it can even be having a diagnosis of something like cancer, for example, as well.
Yeah, that's true. I actually believe during those life changing times you actually have that opportunity to reinvent yourself. So I know
100%.
Yeah. So from your personal experience, how does one overcome adversity?
I think from my personal experience, and what it took me a little while, is I think you come to a crossroads of where you want to be and what you want to, when you're in these adverse situations, and you do have a natural choice, and there's really one way. Like, you can go negative, and you can have that victim mindset, like, why me? Why has this happened to me? And then blame other people, and obviously and it's natural for us to do that. It actually is the most challenging, is actually to go the other way and actually, kind of embrace it, forgive anything which has happened. If someone has maybe been any wrongdoing upon your life, forgive, offer them, love, and then move and actually take that as an inspiration to move forward in your life. And I think we always have those crossroads, and naturally you can go down one, and then you may have something which triggers. I think probably for myself, I probably went the negative route for a little while, and it got to a point when I made that call, or I realized I couldn't want to live this way anymore, and there's something stopped me from taking my own life, and then I kind of readjusted. So I think naturally, but it's really like, when you are faced with that adverse situation, there is ultimately a choice of what you want to do, and if you do go the negative way, for example, there's a lot of pain there, and it's not pleasant. But if you kind of, go, I think a lot of it if you go inwards, if you really start, really sort of sitting in stillness and really just understanding who you are, and reading books, and doing obviously meditation and journaling, and obviously gratitude, is key, even when you are, these things really are massive tools. Affirmation, self-love, all these tools which you hear about a lot, but they're so important, because it is easier, and to go the negative route. And there's one of my mentors, and Pete Cohen, who I work with, he always talks about the duck on the head, and you've got this voice in you which wants to keep you where you are. It doesn't want to. We're in a body, but we're in a 2 million old brain, and it wants to keep you in the comfort zone. It doesn't want you to to be harmed any further. So it is uncomfortable to take the positive route, but you will get a lot of satisfaction and inspiration there.
I actually love that. I really love that a lot. Why is it overcoming so important? I know, like you said, it's so comfortable to be in the negative space, and you have to move. But sometimes it's very difficult to leave the comfort, because you're fearing what's out there. But why would you say overcoming adversity is so important?
I think it's so. I think we're all here for a purpose. I think you have to find your why, and I think that's so important. You're here for a purpose, and I say I could have, naturally, from my personal opinion, I know I could have taken that, that what happened to to myself, and lived, my personal, what I wanted to do. If I had a choice of what I wanted to do, is firstly, I don't want to be here, but secondly, if I did, and I was going to go and move to, like, Scotland was my ideal plan, and live like a recluse lifestyle, of not have any interaction with anyone, just live on my own, just get through life. And that's really what I wanted to do. But it was always something in me to say, you've got a story to tell. This is your purpose. You have to share this. Like, why did I have to go through so much pain and suffering? And I learned a lot from people, as I say, like Michael Singer and Dr. Joe Dispenza, and amazing people I was just listening to all the time. And I just felt like that actually, this happened to me, not, this happened for me, not to me. And this is why I have to share my story. And that's really why I came out and just was like, right, I'm going to use this as to help others. And that's really been the main objective over the last sort of, definitely 12 months since I found, obviously, the Jay Shetty program. But I was listening to Jay a lot as well, and I really resonated. I was inspired by how he could take, obviously being a monk, and take that type of, what he'd learned as a monk, and actually brought it into modern day living, and how you could actually use it and stuff. And I've always been like fascinated over the last 2 to 3 years about the mind, and just how it, and how, that inner voice, and just got so much more intrigued by that. But I found my purpose and my why really is like, I'm here for a reason, and I believe that's to help others or be a beacon of hope for other people who are going through struggles.
Yeah, you know what? I actually had another question for you, but I think you already answered it. It was basically, how has this practice changed your life? And you already answered it so much in what you just said right now. But if you have anything else to add to that, you can add to that.
No, I think you're right. I mean, for myself, as I say, that what I'm today is what I've gone against everything which I wanted to do. And again, this is relates to to Pete as well. And what I learned from him is like doing things greater than you feel. Like naturally as humans, if we don't feel like doing something, we don't do it. And actually the growth is where you do things you don't want to do. And that's really what I started to learn from myself, is actually just, if I didn't want to do something, I had to do it. Or if something was brought fear or something brought uneasiness, I had to do it. And that's, and I've kind of tried to follow that policy as much as I feasibly can. But obviously with that there's growth, and things open up for you when you naturally do things actually you don't want to do.
I actually do like that. So how can we bring about change in ourselves for our own benefit and also to impact others?
I think really everyone is on their own journey, and everyone has their own challenges in life, and it's really is what fits with them at their particular time. I think naturally, for myself and through coaching, I've always been of the opinion that people don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be told what to do. They just need to be shown a space where it's a safe environment for them to share and be vulnerable, and just to be loved and accepted. And I'm a big believer in that. I think no one, and we're all kind of whole, unique, wholesome. We've all got all the answers within us. Everything is within us. It's just being able to sit with ourselves, which is naturally a really uncomfortable thing to do, but just sit in silence and just look at and kind of, what are the thoughts coming up, really analyze your thoughts a lot more and write them down and journal and think, okay, that's a thought, which is really become a master of yourself as much as you feasibly can. And that's to say, that's what I kind of learned through coaching. Like people some days naturally came to me and wanted my advice, and I was like, actually my advice isn't important. My story might be important, but my advice is not important. Like who am I to tell anyone what to do? It's always, and I've just always believed that if I provide someone with a real safe space to share and be open and vulnerable, the answers will come for them at some point. But as I say, I think people really just need to be, accepted and and not sort of judged, and that's what I believe through coaching. But I think everyone's on their own personal journey, and sometimes that may come at a certain stage. Like if someone said to me that back in 2018, I probably would have been like, no, I want your advice, I want your help, but I think if you are prepared to just be uncomfortable a little bit and sit with yourself, which is naturally difficult to do these days because we're so bombarded by information and notifications and doing this and doing that. But if you can just be prepared to just sit with yourself a little bit and be uncomfortable a little while, and silence is golden, I think.
That's true. You know what? I think during this whole pandemic, all of us were forced to sit with ourselves and delve within. And most of us actually got to know ourselves better than any other time in our lives. And also, some of us actually didn't like who we were. And we were actually given that opportunity to make a change or stay or remain the way we are. And I think most of us actually chose the latter, to make a change. So there's something good that came out of this pandemic as well.
I think so. Yeah, I think a lot. I think you're right. I think everyone's had a different experience of obviously of the pandemic, and obviously there's been a lot of loss of life, and there's been a lot of trauma and a lot of difficulties, and people have struggled. And but it's all and that is one side, and you can definitely sort of empathise with people who have struggled. It has been a really difficult time, but then there's obviously the other side where people have naturally gone inwards, and they've learned. They've been able to utilize the time and take courses, read books. I think naturally we can spend a lot of our time when we're in lockdown and go through Netflix and watch TV and that's great to have some downtime. But I always look at that as, what am I learning here? What am I actually learning? Is there what growth am I getting here? And sometimes you can watch a great documentary and you're definitely learning. But I always think, have I earned the right to sit here and watch this? And if I haven't, then I won't. But that's like huge. That is quite a lot of self-discipline. I mean, one of the probably things I do pride myself on is rituals and self-discipline. But that again has been built over 12, 18 months or so. But yeah, I think we all had a different experience of the pandemic. But I think, yeah, as you say, naturally people who have gone inwards, who have learned, who have studied, who have really seen some great growth over the last 12 months in their own personal development.
Yeah, that's true. So can you tell us, how does adversity build resilience?
I think it really does. I mean, I'm a huge believer. As I say, I know it's natural to look at myself now and maybe look at some of the stuff I do on Instagram and think, wow, this person is, super strong, and I'm not far ahead of a lot of people. I mean, I'm not someone who's sort of 10 years out of trauma, 10, 15 years out of trauma. I mean, mine's, is still quite recent. But naturally, if you saw me on a social platform back in 2017, I was posting very, very different things. I was a completely different person. I was not this person. And so, but I built resilience. Like, I was super shy person, lacked real self-belief, a lot of confidence issues, a lot of anxiety issues. So when I went through trauma, I was nowhere near ready for it. And that's why I think the only option for me was suicide, because I hadn't built up any resilience. I did have a really good upbringing in childhood, so I wasn't prepared for what life really was going to be about to ultimately to quite a later stage for myself. So with that, resiliency, through ultimately doing difficult things, like doing stuff I did not want to do. Like, did I want to get up at 5 o'clock and go for a 10-mile run? No, not really. Did I want to get up at 5 and meditate and journal? Well, no, it wasn't. These are things which I had to, build. And certain books change that. And as I say, David Goggins a reference to, and how I can't remember his name now, but he's called like The Miracle Morning. Hal Helrod, I think his name is. I read that book, and it was all about, and that's what it's all about. It was all about exercise. It was about meditation. It was about journaling. It was about reading. These were like the savers. And so it was really like doing things I didn't want to do and build habits which I hadn't. And with that, you build resiliency, because naturally adversity is going to hit me again, and it could be anything. I still have, obviously, family, and I still have a dog, and I still have, I'm sure I still will have relationships in the future. I mean, things will go wrong for me, and I'm just training myself now that when things do go wrong again, because naturally they will do, I'm ready for it. I wasn't ready last time, and I suffered a lot of pain. And that's really where I am today, and it's just really helping people, because I think naturally we do have our greatest growth from pain and suffering. Like, we do wait for a diagnosis, we do wait for something to happen in life, which but it doesn't have to be that way. It's actually better if you don't wait till everything kind of your world's fallen apart to make that change. But yeah, I think it's through the daily rituals you build into your life, that's what builds your strength and resiliency as you move forward.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this immaterial world is actually designed like this, where there's always good and bad, like summer, winter, day and night, all are happening. And whether we like it or not, the world is changing, and we should be changing with the world. If we're going to be sitting stagnant, not wanting the world to change, it's still going to change, but we're going to still be in one place, not moving.
Exactly right. I mean, as you say, I think, for us and generally it's a difficult sometimes thing to get around, but we are, we always look at, 4 different things. I always look at 4 different things over the course of the day, and that's sort of, being, energy, love, and impact. And it's always like rating myself, like, being like, how am I? And it's natural when you're obviously on an airplane. It always says, like, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, then help someone else. So you've got to help yourself. You are, and I think that's kind of so key, to be able to, be strong enough yourself, and then you can actually start to help others. But you really kind of analyze your day and then kind of what you want to achieve, and sometimes you can break it down from every 2 hours or every hour, but it's really being able to really sort of self-manage kind of yourself, and making sure you've got kind of a structure in place. I mean, everything is around structure. And I kind of learned that a lot through coaching, because you need when you go into coaching calls with clients, you need a structure. You can't just be going in and just having conversations, because you're never going to get to where for that client to get the result they want. So once you kind of learn the structure in coaching, you actually need structure in your own life as well, I believe.
That's very true. Very true. What lessons can we learn from life, the universe, family, friends, and even strangers? And how can we implement this knowledge in our own lives?
I think a lot of, as you say, it's a really great question, but I think with what I've learned through life and the learnings, that I'm a big sort of, you need to take action, but I'm a big sort of fan of, like, trusting the universe. And each morning I'll say, like, I want to live today with the intent, by the intention of the divine's intention, or the universe, or God, or whatever you want to sort of mention that. And so I'm always trying to be conscious of things happening, coming up, just these, and so if things like, I always treat everything as a sign, coming from the universe, and with that I'll always be like, okay, I've got to be conscious to those signs. And so I'm a big fan of trusting the universe, putting my faith in it, and know things will work out, but I've got to be conscious of the signs which are coming up for me. I think strangers play a huge part, actually, if I'm completely honest with you. I mean, through my own struggles, and obviously I have friends and family, like, I didn't really talk to them that much, because I think, because you're so close, I think, you don't really want them maybe to, it's difficult to say, but kind of know how bad you are in certain instances. And I think it's great to reach out to people, but actually I found a lot of support, in people I don't know. Obviously, picked up a call to someone who I didn't know. Even when we're on, I get quite a lot of support off Instagram, and obviously being on Clubhouse. I don't know anyone, I mean, it's very rare, like, I know these people. I've never, a lot of the times I've never met them, but if we've got some sort of bond, actually more so than probably, for certain friends and family now, just because, I think, as you say, you're operating, you're vibing at a different level, and people actually come into your, I always, again, a big believer, like, people who do come into your life, it's usually, a gift. I always say it's a gift from the universe. Like, people who have come into my life over the last 12 months, who I really, are really resonate with and have a great connection with. I always say, like, I always tell them, like, you are a gift from the universe, because yeah, I mean, I these people weren't in my life, over 12 months ago, and sometimes, you find a lot of great connections there, more so than some of your longer standing friends, not in a negative way. It's just that naturally sometimes when you go through your own personal journey of some trauma, you operate, or you start thinking differently. You're on the self-development type spiritual learning course, but if your friends aren't on there, then it's hard to resonate with them.
Yeah. You know what, when you're actually going through this journey, you're going to, what I actually found, that a lot of my friends that I actually had during my childhood, they just disappeared. There was no problem between us, but they disappeared, even with family members as well. It's because you have a purpose, you found your purpose, and you are vibrating at a different level right now compared to them. And also, the power of the tongue and the mind, because you're actually saying out these words, you're also thinking these thoughts, and that is why you're attracting like-minded people. That's what I believe.
It's 100%. As you mentioned that, everything of what you mentioned just rang so true with my personal my personal journey as well. As you say, I had no issues with anyone, not falling out with anyone, but people who were around me just aren't really there anymore. And it's not, as you say, there's no real, there's not no negativity there. It's just, as you say, it's just a natural that your purpose, your why, you're putting information out which you believe in, you're operating and doing things, and it doesn't resonate as much with them because they've known you for maybe sort of 20 years previously plus, and you're a different person now, and they don't think you're not that person who used to be. You're kind of different, and why that's type, and it's so it is so true what you said.
Yeah. So can you recommend any practical ways to deal with everyday stresses?
I mean, for me, it's always been rituals, and as I kind of touched on, I do get up at 5, in the morning, and I will spend an hour, through meditation, which is probably somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes. Then I will have my affirmations for a little bit of time. I'll journal for probably 20 minutes or so, and I learned this from a lady called Patty Dobrovolsky, draw your future. So I've always got my pad out, and always I have myself as like a stick person, and I kind of have my trajectory. We can't quite see on here, but I have basically my trajectory of what I'm going to do over the course of this year. So I have and it works because I did this. I started probably this about six weeks ago when I started to learn this. I was journaling already before then, but not like this way, not like drawing my future. So I was this like a stick person, and then I had I want to complete my 4x4x48 in a weighted vest. I want to raise £500 for the Samaritan's charity. I am going to be a Jay Shetty certified coach, and all those 3 things have happened over the last 6 weeks. And these obviously they're on my radar. They haven't come out of the blue, but I've achieved them. And obviously now I've kind of got other things on for the rest of this year. So I think that's a big thing, it's a lot around what is your future self saying to you. And I always ask myself, what is my future self saying yes to that I'm saying no to? And then to flip it the other way, what's my future self saying no to that I'm saying yes to? And if you can answer those questions for yourself, I ask all my clients these questions as well, but it's super important. Like they've got to have a vision of what their future self is, because then when things come up in your life, you go, well, that fits in with my future self. Tick. No, that doesn't fit in with where I want to be, and you can cross that off. So you're not kind of in this flux all the time when things come your way. So I think having a future vision, but as you say, it's meditation, it's journaling, it's affirmations, and then I'll go for a walk. I take my dog for a walk and just have actually at that time I'll get on to Clubhouse and be on a morning room. And then I'll do my exercise for anywhere between sort of probably up to about 45 minutes. So it's really well, by the time I'm ready to start my day about 8:30, I've been up for 3.5 hours, and that's perfect for me because I'm ready to go. My day's set. I've done everything I wanted to do. If at any time that slightly goes off and I miss something, my day doesn't go too good. It doesn't go as good as I hoped. If I don't journal, if I don't meditate, if I don't exercise. So I definitely believe in having some rituals in place which you stick to because they help you personally.
I'm actually quite intrigued. How did you get this disciplined? Because I know practice makes perfect. I know that. But I mean, you're actually consistent. You're doing this every day. And like you mentioned as well, if you don't do it one day, you feel something is missing and your day doesn't go accordingly or how you actually wanted it to go. How did you get the discipline?
I think it was always having that mindset of wanting to learn more, and wanting to understand things more. And I think, as you say, things actually changed a little bit for myself. Like, I was 2019, I was in this flux where I was like I guess sort of a director in a business, and I just decided, I wanted to leave, and I wanted to do something. I just believed there was something different, after what I went through. But I didn't know, obviously at that time, I didn't really know what it was. And then, so yeah, from the summer, I took a sabbatical. So summer of 2019 to the end of 2019, I took a sabbatical, and that's really when I did a lot of personal development. And I actually went out to Bali in October of that year and spent, I can't remember now, over 10 days there. And I was there on my own, and I took some books, and I saw loads of, went to all these different kind of like spiritual sites and toured around the island, and I don't know, like something has happened there. And I was reading these books. That's when I came across like the Miracle Morning, and that's when I came across David Goggins. I found all these different things there, and really from that moment on, by the time I got back in the UK, yeah, that's when it all started, I would say. Then I was like, right, I'm following this. And obviously, as you say, it takes like 30 days to build a habit. And you're going to go through some pain, you can and drop. And I didn't want to get up at 5, especially in the winter time, because obviously then it was moving into the winter time. But I just stuck with it. And it's just who I am now. Like, I don't even really remember it not being this way anymore. But yeah, I would say that journey, or that being there, something did change when I was there. But it was just really through, I think, probably the books I was reading, and I was just somehow started operating at a different vibe when I got back.
Powerful, absolutely powerful. So, considering the high workload involved in your roles as a business owner, a life coach, what are some of the techniques that can be used daily to create a healthy balance? Because I know as a business owner, and also a yoga teacher and all of that, I feel like I'm giving a lot, and also getting something in return from my students as well. But from your personal journey, how would you feel, or what would you say with regards to balance? How can my audience find a balance in their life by doing all of this?
I think it goes a lot down to the structure and how you want your day to be. I think if you go into a day kind of sort of a bit of a blank piece of paper, and then you're very reactive to what comes up. And so there's a lot of discipline for myself. I will always have like my success list for the day, and it would only be 4 things. So it's not that clear. Obviously, exercise is always at the top, and my morning routine is always at the top. And then it's broken down to, like, how long I'm going to be on a Clubhouse. What do I need to do from a business perspective? Have I got any coaching I'm doing today? And is there any courses I'm on which I need to do? And those will really be the 4 things, and I'll just keep it like it's that. And then I'll just be continuing, because I've written it down. Sometimes I don't really put the times against them, but sometimes I will, if I really want to be strict with myself, to say, right, 12 till 2, I'm going to be doing this. But I kind of have those 4, and I'm just monitoring those all, every day. And something, naturally, things do come up, and I'll say, right, okay, this is something which actually is important, and I'm going to have to approach. And then maybe I'll have to let go of something which I had put on my plan, or I do. Or I'd just work a little bit later, in the evening. I mean, I've always been found like I'm a good morning person, me personally. And so sometimes when it gets to like the mid-afternoon time, somewhere 3, 4, 5, I start to, I lag a little bit. But then I come alive a little bit again, sort of 7, 8, 9, because I find that time actually really peaceful, because there's not a lot happening or not as much going on, and I feel like that's when I'll maybe do my learning and my course, which I have obviously course and studies to do. So I believe always it's around going into your day with a plan, but not overwhelming yourself, just having 3 or 4 things on there. And I think if you kind of take the analogy of getting 1% better each day, and obviously over 1 year, that's 37 times better than were when you left. So you don't need these massive changes in life. You don't need to make these huge, adjustments. Just look for always those small increments each day. And 1% is massive to do that. But yeah, it ultimately goes back to keeping it down to 3 or 4 to do things and kind of sticking to it.
I like that. It's actually baby steps. What are 3 things that you do on a daily basis to build inner strength?
Is the absolute staple for me, because I've found with exercise, especially with I used to run a lot, and I still do quite a lot of running, but I still wasn't building a lot of mental. What I felt anyway, me personally, I didn't. My mental strength, I wasn't really building as much, and it's only really when I started following a lot more what you could say like a military fitness regime. So everything was driven around, obviously pull-ups and push-ups and burpees and just having these staple sort of exercise routines in place. And then introducing weights, I really started to feel like that sort of strength and mindset is really built over that period of time. So I think exercise is the absolute foundation of the beginning. And then for myself, it's reading. I'm always keen. I'm always reading, any particular, obviously with Clubhouse and introduction of that, sometimes my reading might have slipped a little bit over the last couple of months, but I was always have like 2 or 3 books on the go. One could be one actually reading at night time, one could be reading sort of in the day, at lunchtime, and then the morning one. So I have all these like different areas, and some can be, book on mindset. So it could be like obviously like the David Goggins book, or something from Mark Devine's another one who I follow, again kind of having that sort of military Navy SEAL type sort of mindset. And then I'll read a really spiritual book, like Conversations with God. That was a big one, Donald Walsh, and the Autobiography of a Yogi from Paramahansa Yogananda, and then having stuff from the Stoic and Epictetus. So I have these really different type of books which I like learning from. But for me, I really enjoy reading those different type of books. So I think, and then for myself, it is like that meditation. It's just, you could say gratitude as well, but just having, I really do believe like sitting in silence for myself is something I really enjoy doing. And that could be, in nature, or it could be, just sitting, in a room on my own. But obviously, out in nature and having that grounding effect. Sometimes if you sit outside in the garden, but those sort of 3 things for myself are really key for myself in every day.
Absolutely awesome. I'm going to ask you something else, but I think you already answered it at the beginning of our session. But you can also can actually add to it if you want. Could you give us 1 or 2 pivotal moments that have shaped your journey thus far?
So I think obviously probably one of the pivotal moments is obviously making decisions to stay here, to still be alive in the house. That's a bit of a pivotal, because it was a long time which I didn't want to be. So making that decision, to stay and there. Then I would think, I think probably the other one is probably the Bali moment, when I went out there and just let go of a lot of things. I think, I don't know, it was kind of maybe just being in that environment, going around some of these really like spiritual sites which I went to and was taken to, and some of the reading I was doing. And obviously I was on my own as well. I didn't really, at that particular time as well, I was even then I was probably a different person than I am today. Like, again, lacking in a lot of confidence, didn't really know who I was. I was on this journey, didn't really know where I was going, what I was doing. And so I spent a lot of that time actually on my own and in silence. And I think from there I kind of really started to find who or what I wanted to be, and things just came to me then. Like, I didn't, like, certain people, certain things came up which I hadn't found. So when I got back into the UK, suddenly I implemented all these strategies a little bit more. So I think those are probably I mean, there's been so many, I would say, but I think those are probably the main two, I'd say, because yeah, they definitely really changed the trajectory in a big way.
Okay. Could you also tell us some of the lessons that you learned during these pivotal moments?
I think what I started to learn is not to force things, and not to kind of being frustrated that things weren't quite happening at the speed I wanted them to. I think that was kind of one of the, I was going through this learning stage, and I hadn't gone through a learning stage before, obviously, but until obviously the last time was probably in school, and so I kind of expected, like, I'd learn something, implement it, and it would work, and naturally, obviously, it didn't work that way. I had to go through quite a lot of pain to really sort of understand that it's going to take time to change. It's going to, this isn't suddenly an overnight, success or a magic wand, and suddenly everything was going to be better. It was really going to be, I had to stick to a plan, and I had to just not, never give up really, and just keep going forward, and then naturally have that reluctance in a lot of ways, because as people, we're so we kind of want to force things to happen. We want things, we kind of really want things to happen on our terms. And actually, if you kind of just let them go to the flow of life, but you take daily action of where you want to go, things will, start to happen for you. And I think those are probably, some of the learnings I had, is not just to sort of get out my own way a little bit, and not try to be so, trying to force things, or try to, kind of control things, and just let go.
Yeah, that's absolutely important, I guess. Also, okay, I know you don't like to give advice, but could you maybe share something with our audience, with our Mindful Trinity listeners? So
Yeah.
it could be a quote, your favorite quote. It could actually be your quote, or anything for that matter. Something that can add value to our listeners' lives.
Actually, it's so basic, honestly, but it was one of the most profound things I ever heard. Probably sometime in 2019, someone just said to me, "If nothing changes, nothing changes." And I just sat with that for a minute, and I was just honestly blown away, because it was just like, it's so basic, but it's just so true. Like, if you don't change anything, then nothing will change. And that was one of the big things, was actually one of the most, what I felt at that time, one of the most profound things that I have ever heard. And it's so basic, but yeah, as you say, if it's just, it is what it is. If nothing does change, or you don't want to change anything, then you can't expect any different results. What got you here won't get you there. So you have to change. And obviously then naturally, then it's kind of like, if you want to go somewhere where you've not been before, you're going to have to embrace, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So these are probably a couple of the ones, but yeah, that one honestly was so profound to me, like blew me away. And I know it's obviously so basic.
Yeah, it's actually quite deep, very deep, in fact. Yeah. Okay, how can the public find you, whether it's actually in person or on social media?
Yes, everything's really tagged under James Peters Lifestyle. So Instagram, it's James Peters Lifestyle. Website is www.jamespeterslifestyle.com. So those are really the two. I guess I would say that I do have obviously a Facebook page as well, again under the same handle. Probably Instagram's the most active. So yeah, that would be the biggest, where most active.
Your coaching, do you do that online, or is it in person?
Yeah, at the moment it's all in person. It's all one-to-one direct coaching, and it's kind of anything really which, as I say, it's people who have had some sort of adversity, in their life, who are at that crossroads in their life and really want to sort of, go to the next step. I do a lot, or work with a lot of people who have, like self-esteem, self-confidence, whether that's lacking, and they want to take that forward, and work on 4 to 6 week type programs with people to really get them you know, embracing life again, you know, a little bit more than where they are. So it's kind of taking them from being stuck and a bit lost to having a little bit more clarity around their vision and what they actually want to do. And I do a lot of work around, you know, Jay has obviously certain methodologies which, you know, which we use, which is around kind of like ABC type methodology, around the kind of awareness, audit, and then through to accountability and, you know, building habits, and then all the way through to competence mastery, when obviously you're so confident in it that you can then go and share and help someone else. So that's obviously some of the methodologies, but I love stuff like Ikigai as well, and the Wheel of Life, and those type of methodologies as well. But yeah, it's really helping people who are stuck at that crossroads and actually, you know, really want to, you know, go forward in life.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This entire discussion was so phenomenal. It was so refreshing for me. And I'm sure when my audience actually get to hear this as well, they're going to agree with me. Yeah, thank you so much for enlightening us, for sharing your journey with us, and also teaching us through your journey about adversity and how to overcome it as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
No problem. No, thank you for inviting me. And as I say, hopefully it does help, even if it's just one person.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to our audience, if you actually found some sort of resonance through this talk, please do subscribe and share it with across your social platforms. Also, leave us a review and also rate us on the different podcast channels. Thank you once again, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.